What's up, YouTube? A special shout out to the subscribers here and welcome to another weekly training video where I'm here to talk through all the training and racing I'm doing to prepare for Ironman Texas coming up in April of 2026. In today's video, I'll talk briefly about the training that I got done last week, but the majority of the time I will spend talking about the Texas City Triathlon, which I took part in this Saturday. It was a great event. I can't wait to tell you all about it. So let's dive into last week's training and get through that first, and then we'll talk about the race. On Monday, I had a nice long swim, 3,600 yards in the pool, and I'm really enjoying doing these longer swims, swimming more than 2,500 yards, more than 2 days a week, really keeping that increase in swim volume going the last few weeks, and I really feel good about it. Also on Monday, I went out and did the longest run that I had done in weeks. As you may have known, if you've watched any of the previous videos, the last couple of weeks I've been trying to rehab from a TFL injury, and that's sidelined me from running for more than 3 weeks. Fast forward to, last Monday, I got that 8-mile run done with a walk break in between each mile, and it was a huge confidence booster. Not only did my foot feel good and my hip feel good, but I felt better as I went, feeling more and more comfortable. It also really helped me, knowing that I could get through 7-8 miles, easy pace. I really felt like racing for 3 miles on the weekend was something that I would be easily capable of doing. If I'm able to run 8 miles, I should run 3 miles. So long story short, that was a challenging run. I wasn't necessarily expecting to do a long run on my Monday last week, but I'm really glad I did because it really set me up, gave me some confidence to get through the rest of the week, knowing that I had the running on, well, not necessarily on point, but at least I knew I had some running in my legs and I wasn't going to be going into this race feeling like unprepared on the run. So good training day on Monday, rounded that out with yoga in the evening. Very productive day on Monday. Tuesday, did some strength training in the morning and then had a interval ride where I was doing one 40-minute zone 3 set. Very simple workout. Got through that without any issues, and my coach actually told me to go ahead and skip the brick run that I had on my plan. I think he did that because my run on Monday went well, and I think that he felt that it was probably a good idea to just let me recover from the 8 miles, not necessarily get out the next day and go run again. And I think that was a good call. I did go running the next day on Wednesday, however, but first I went to the pool, swam 2,600 yards, enjoying that workout on Wednesday morning. It's one that I've done a lot of times. It's 16 by 125 with a little bit of pace changing, and it's a pretty fun way to swim 2,000 yards for the main set. I like that workout. After that, did a nice easy to steady progression run, which was key for me. It was the first time I was trying to run faster than my easy pace since I've returned to running. I dropped the pace every mile for 4 miles. I can't quite remember what those paces looked like, so we can take a look. First lap coming in at 8:16 per mile. Then second one was 7:40 per mile. I then progressed to 7:23 per mile, and the final one that I did was at 7:16 per mile. And I was feeling pretty good. Another confidence builder for the race because I'd come off of a few weeks without running, got that long run done on Monday, got a little bit of speed in my legs on Wednesday, and it was time to stop running and just recover, get ready for the race on Saturday after that. On Thursday, I did one very easy workout. I took my bike out with its race wheels on and took the opportunity to make sure that everything is shifting well, my brakes are working well. I love riding my bike with the race wheels on it. It's so enjoyable, and I was really able to, enjoy that ride on Thursday. I didn't push the effort, really just took it as easy as possible. And then I took the entire day on Friday off, all in preparation for Saturday's race. Saturday went really well, and then after the race on Sunday, I wanted to go out and do a recovery ride, so I went out and did 1 hour nice and easy with our training group here, and I enjoyed that as well. So training last week was a confidence builder, got my legs moving again, and I'm really happy that I took some time to take it easy on Thursday and Friday to get ready for the race. Now, that all being said, let's talk about the race. Let's talk about the Texas City Triathlon. So this was my second time doing the Texas City Triathlon. I did it in its inaugural year back in 2022. I had a fantastic day there back in 2022. I was training for Ironman Florida at the time. I had a lot of run and bike volume in my legs. I hadn't really done any sprint type of racing in a long time, and I went out there in 2022 and just smashed it. Had my best run off the bike that I've ever done in a sprint triathlon, and I ended up coming in first place overall in the age group race. It was a huge success for me. All that being said, I skipped the race in 2023 and in 2024, and both times that I didn't go do the race, I felt like I was missing out. I really had enjoyed it in 2022. And missing it in 2023 and 2024 was a little bit, a bit of a bummer. I was not prepared to let that happen this year. I saw that the race was going to sell out. I went ahead and signed up, even though I wasn't 100% sure if I was going to be able to run well. And I'm really glad that I did, because as it turned out, I was able to run well enough to get myself into 5th place overall. And I also took the overall Masters first place award, which was a really, really rewarding. I was very grateful for it. And I only got that award by about 6 seconds on the next athlete back. So let's talk about, from top to bottom. The morning started out pretty well. Got there nice and early, got my stuff into transition. Really nothing too remarkable. There wasn't really any crazy lines for the porta potties or anything, so it was a pretty chill, get to the race, get my stuff set up, and then it was just time to wait for the gun to go off. The sun started coming up. It was absolutely beautiful. I was really eager to get in the water. It was just gorgeous. There were over 200 first-time triathletes there, and they could not have asked for a better race morning. It was just beautiful. The water was very, very calm. The water was nice and warm. It was just as far as open water swims go, it was one of the nicest, most gentle experiences that you can have. So I have a really cool photo here of the swim start. Right as the gun went off, I started my watch and sprinted in as soon as I could. I was in the second wave of athletes, and we started 3 minutes back from the first wave. The first wave went out, and it was a little concerning to watch, because a large portion of the first wave of athletes, they weren't swimming. They were just walking. So some people were swimming, but a lot of athletes were just sort of power walking out into the tide. I'm not sure if they didn't want to start swimming yet, or I'm not sure what the reason was, but a large amount of the athletes that had started 3 minutes prior were still walking when our wave got the gun to go off. So I knew right from the beginning of the swim that it was probably going to be a lot of making sure that I'm not running into other athletes, making sure that I'm not swimming, into someone's feet, or swimming into someone that's standing up, or it was a little bit of a minefield situation. But all that being said, I had a very low contact swim, very, very minimal contact with any other athlete. I didn't have any trouble sighting, and I really tried to not let myself get into a comfortable rhythm, meaning that I'm recognizing that it's a 500-yard race. I'm not necessarily trying to get comfortable. I'm trying to push myself to swim faster, because again, it's only 500. That's my mentality going into it. And I believe I did a pretty good job of avoiding that sort of comfort zone. I felt like every time I started to calm down, I was able to sort of recognize that I was not pushing as hard as I could, and would up the effort to match that little decreases. 2 turns on the swim. First turn smooth, second turn smooth. I wasn't quite expecting to, I didn't realize how much further out the second buoy was from the shore than the first buoy, so it did throw me a little bit. It felt like I should be getting to the shore a little bit sooner, so I was swimming a little bit longer than I thought I would be. And also, as I was coming into the swim exit, there was the final wave of athletes that they had just started that was coming out. So I'm swimming in the shallows towards the swim exit, and as this is happening, dozens of other athletes are walking into the water and starting their swim on the way out. So again, minimal contact somehow. I could see athletes were seeing me coming in and getting out of my way as I'm trying to get as close to the I don't like to stand up unless I'm all the way towards the end. As soon as my hands are reaching dirt, that's when I stand up. I tend to swim in a lot farther than some other athletes. So despite all of that, it was a pretty smooth swim. I got out of the water about 2 minutes back from the fastest swimmers in the race. I wish that my gap was a little bit less compared to some of these better swimmers that I end up racing here in the area. But the reality is I can expect to be anywhere between 90 seconds to 3 minutes behind some of the fastest swimmers in a sprint distance race. It's what I've come to expect. Now, the first thing about this race that's a little bit different than most is that transition 1 and transition 2, they're in the same spot, but it's about a quarter mile or more away from the swim exit. And because of that, what a lot of athletes, including myself, will do is they'll put a pair of shoes right there at the end of the sand. That way you can slip those shoes on and you don't have to run barefoot on the asphalt for a quarter mile to get to transition. Now, could I have done it without shoes? Probably would have been fine, but at the end of the day, you don't want to cut yourself as you're running to your bike. You don't want to step on something that's going to, cause you to hop, skip, or, it's just those little things that if you can remove those variables by taking a few moments to just put some shoes on, I felt like it was a no-brainer. And I was able to really dig in. I mean, when you come out of the water and stand up, it might feel like you're pushing and going fast, but honestly it always looks like you're going in slow motion when you see yourself. Like, I tried my best to get out of the water, stand up, get my shoes on, and then my goal was to try to run with a sense of urgency. And I'm really, really glad that I did, because the Masters race ended up being really close, within 6 seconds, and I'm totally confident that if I hadn't taken that first transition seriously, got the shoes ready, and I ran about 7:30 per mile for that quarter mile or so. I was really moving. So that was really helpful. I knew I needed to avoid losing time in that T1 setup. So got to my bike, helmet on, bike off, had my shoes attached to the pedal, so I was able to run out of transition pretty quickly, mounted the bike, pedaling on top of my shoes to go up the little hill and come around to the beginning of the course. Once I got on the straightaway, I got both my shoes situated, got my feet strapped in, no issues there, and it was time to start pushing. Got into the aero position, started working, started to push about 340 watts, just trying to really get a strong start. There's a speed bump situation about a mile into the bike course, so I did have to let off the gas and safely take those up and down speed bumps. Once you pass that, you go out, you take a left, came back around, rode back down the edge of the park, and then you turn onto the dike, the Texas City dike, and you go out and back to complete the bike course. Once you're on the dike, you're very exposed to the wind. It's a long shot, straight out, miles of riding to do just in a straight line. I was passing athletes almost the entire time because there was not only the first wave of age group triathletes on the course already, there was also a duathlon that had started earlier as well. So I'm not only passing athletes in the triathlon, I'm also passing athletes that are riding on their bike portion of their duathlon. So I can see on people's calves if there's a D or a T, D for duathlon and T for triathlon. So I am keeping that in mind, but mostly I'm just trying to stay safe, stay focused, not do anything risky, take all of my passes very carefully, just trying to make sure that I get through the ride safely. Out on the dike, I was continuing to pass other athletes, and as I started getting towards the end of the dike, I realized I'd be able to see the front of the race coming back the other way, and so I started to pay attention. I was expecting to see athletes coming back the other way a little bit sooner, and every few moments that I kept going without seeing athletes coming, I kept thinking that I may be closer to the front of the race than I realized. I was like, okay, maybe there really is only a handful of people up in front of me. Let's see how far back I am. And honestly, I went a lot farther out before seeing athletes coming the other way than I thought I would. Now, it wasn't like I felt like I would be able to catch them necessarily, because they did pass me with a little bit of time before I got to the turnaround. I didn't really feel like I could realistically catch the first group of riders that I saw, but I thought that I could probably catch a handful of the 10 or so athletes that had passed me going the other direction. I came around, started heading back, put my head down, really just tried to stay aero, stay in my power, and ended up passing another handful of athletes on the way back on the dike. the last maybe 400 meters of the race, I got passed by a cyclist who was just absolutely hammering it. I could see his whole body going into the pedals. He was just trying to finish super strong, and got to give it to him. I had no response to the pass. He went by me, and it really felt like I was standing still. So I was passed by one athlete on the bike, and I came into transition with a little bit of a sloppy dismount. I got my left foot out, and then my right foot, I couldn't quite get my heel out of the shoe before the mount line, so had to slow down, stop, reach down, get my right heel to pop out of my shoe, and then once I did that, I was able to get on my way into T2. T2 also went pretty smooth, except for that little hiccup with getting my foot out. Once I got my running shoes on, my race belt on, I took a quick drink from my bottle on my bike that had a little bit of sugar in there, a little bit of tailwind, and head out. As soon as I started running, I started to feel the fatigue of the ride and the swim were there right away. Sometimes that kind of creeps up on you. I was feeling it from the first few moments that I started on the run. And specifically, I was feeling some cramping starting to build up at the top of my right hip flexor, kind of reaching her way back into under my ribs and kind of feeling it in my back a little bit. And every step I was taking, I was feeling that sort of, tense up and sort of like that feeling where you feel a cramp as you're pounding the ground. It's like sometimes you can pound it into loosening up. Other times it just gets worse and worse as that pounding keeps going. So the first maybe minute and a half of my run, I really wasn't sure what my body was going to do. I was just trying to be patient. I was running about 7:30 per mile. And I really felt like I couldn't speed up, at least not yet. I needed to just sort of be patient. So as I'm getting out there, I'm running, I'm getting through that first mile. I haven't slowed down, but I also haven't sped up. That cramp is starting to feel a little bit less urgent as I'm crossing over the mile mark. About a mile and a half in, you get to do a little turnaround and you can actually see where the other athletes are on the course. At this point, I had been passed by one athlete who was doing the triathlon, but had a 34 on the back of their calf, so I knew I wasn't in competition with that athlete for the Masters race, so I had no issues letting him go. However, when I did the turnaround, I noticed there were quite a few athletes that looked like they were probably in their 40s, just based on a little bit of silver hair, a little bit of beard action going on, and I just felt like at that point that I needed to basically play defense. I felt like there was a good chance that I was at the front of the Masters race. I didn't give up on myself, and I was able to hold everybody off for that last mile despite feeling the pressure coming from behind. I was able to run that last mile a little bit faster than the first two. We can take a look here and just look at my pacing here. But I believe first lap, 7:30 per mile, second lap 7:29, and my third lap 6:55. So I was able to speed up, especially towards the end. And it's really critical that I did because, you'll see in this video here, the other athletes are right there. I really feel like if I didn't speed up, there's a good chance that they would have been more incentivized to catch me. They probably would have gotten a little bit closer in the distance. They probably would have felt a little bit more empowered by the fact that they were closing the distance on me. Instead, I was able to speed up, keep that gap, and I was actually pretty surprised when I came up through the finish chute, and I thought that they were going to be breathing down my neck. I was actually saving just a little bit in the tank to try and out kick at the very end if I needed to. But I was able to cross the finish line without anybody around me, and ultimately was just like so happy that it was over. I was so happy that the cramp hadn't gotten worse. I was happy that I was able to speed up, and ultimately I felt right at the finish that I had done my best and that I felt good about it, which is not always the case when you finish a race, and I'm really grateful that that was the case. So the results of the race worked out so that I came in 5th place overall. I was about 40 seconds away from the next athlete in the triathlon, which would have been 4th place. Now the really cool thing though is that I was the first athlete across the line in the Masters division for 40 to 49. That doesn't mean that everybody that beat me was younger than me though, because there was an athlete that won the Grandmasters, which is age 50 and up, that placed higher than me overall. So this athlete in particular is one that I have tried to chase down several times. He's more than 10 years older than me, and the fact that he keeps kicking my butt in these sprint races is so motivating. I love it. I have previously, in the last 2 sprint races that I did this year, I also won the overall Masters Award. So going into this race, I was really, really hopeful that I might be able to pull out another Masters Award. And, here it is. I got the gold medal. Really, really happy with the result of the race, especially considering that there were at least 3 other athletes in that Masters age group that came across the line within a minute of me. The second place Masters athlete was 6 seconds back. So, very happy with the Texas City Triathlon. Huge congratulations to everybody that participated in the race, especially all those first timers. So cool to have 200 first timers, and one personal friend that I met recently that did his first triathlon successfully. Overall, it was a fantastic race. I would definitely go back and do it again. And, congrats to the overall winners as well. They really had a great day. I didn't even have a chance for that overall spot. I believe the athlete that won was about 4.5 minutes faster across the course than I was. So, no chance for this guy to have won the overall, but definitely happy. I feel like I really earned that Masters Award. So that's everything about the Texas City Triathlon. Now, as far as the rest of my training goes this coming week, I need to sit down with my coach and discuss it. All year, I've been planning on doing a 70.3 in November at the Ironman Triathlon. However, I am kind of questioning that choice. I have not signed up for the race yet. I am considering looking at doing the sprint race on that day instead, because there is a sprint triathlon option in addition to the 70.3. Part of me feels like I'm having so much fun with these sprint races, I would love to go do another one. I also feel like it's possible that with 8 weeks of training between now and that race, I think that I could go into it and have a much stronger run off my bike. However, some people that are, close to me who are, involved in my training decisions and my racing decisions, they may not agree. My wife has already given me a bit of a stink face about it, and she feels that perhaps I'd be selling myself short by not doing the 70.3. I haven't asked my coach what he thinks yet, but that's just kind of where my head is at. And that's why I think that looking at my training for the next few weeks is sort of premature. I need to figure out what the goal is, and then that way we can design some training around that goal. So thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this race report. If you have any questions, anything you'd like to add, please go ahead and drop it in the comments. I always read the comments here on these videos. Whether or not this is a video that is something that you're using to learn more about the sport, or something you're using to just kind of learn more about my personal journey through the sport, I am a complete open book. Would love to talk about training, racing, anything you'd like to discuss pertaining to triathlon in general or to my journey in triathlon. I am happy to discuss in the comments anytime. So thanks again, take care, and I will see you in the next one next Monday.